Welcome back to ASBR Boxing's YouTube channel. Delighted to be joined by, well, I'll say our Polish boxing correspondent, Kasper. Kasper, we love getting you on anytime we've got a Polish fighter in a big fight, which we do, of course, for this preview that we're looking at now. We're heading to Czechów in Poland, Friday the 24th of May, WBC World Bridgerweight title on the line. I think this is the first time I've ever spoken about a fight or previewed a big fight in Bridgerweight. We are, of course, talking about the return of Lawrence Okolie, who faces Lukasz Rozanski, as I mentioned, on the Friday, the 24th of May, in Poland. Kasper, appreciate you jumping on with me, mate. Really looking forward to this one. We'll get straight into it after you kind of tell us how you are and how you're keeping. I want you to first tell me: do you believe that Lawrence Okolie, regardless of what happens here, do you think that he could go on and win a world title at heavyweight in the future?
Well, I'm not sure anymore. I'd say a few months before, or like 2 years before, I'd say that he will be challenging for a world title at heavyweight, but I'm not really sure now. There was a time when I used to think that he was number one or number two guy in the cruiserweight division with Bredis. That was long before Opetaia came along. Well, now we don't really know anything. That fight with Bram Smith was a bit crazy, and everything went downhill after that fight for Lawrence. And I'm looking forward to seeing him with a new coach, but it's yet another coach, and it's a tough out to have another coach in Rzeszów fighting Lukasz Rozanski, who will be, well, there will be a lot of people rooting for him. Stylistically, this matchup is really intriguing. Because I believe in this matchup there are uncertainties on both sides, and I'm not really sure about Okoli's mental state coming into this fight, because coming to Bournemouth to fight Bram Smith was one thing, but going to Poland to fight Lukasz Rozanski in Rzeszów, I'd say that's completely another thing.
Yeah, really interesting. Picking up on a few points you said there. I think I do agree with you. Before the emergence of Opetaia and, when Okolie was world champion making those defenses, I would agree with you. I kind of had in my head that it's inevitable that he'll go up to heavyweight, and it wouldn't have surprised me if he had have got a belt. We see quite often sometimes fighters moving up in whatever weight division it is, and belts being fragmented and becoming vacant, and fighters fighting for vacant titles when they step up. And, it wouldn't have surprised me if Okolie had have done that and perhaps won. But as you mentioned, that Bram Smith fight, it's kind of made me really second guess. And as you correctly said as well, Kasper, about, the mental state of Lawrence Okolie, it's been quite a while now since we've seen him in the Bram Smith fight, which is, well, it'll be more or less a year to the day since he was defeated by Bram Smith, knocked down a few times. Yeah, just really odd fight. And I really don't know what to expect here. Also, as you mentioned correctly, Rozanski, 15-0, 14 knockouts. He's clearly carries a bit of a punch. Knocked Alan Babic out in round one. Also knocked out Artur Szpilka, who, of course, gave Deontay Wilder fits a few years ago until he was stopped. He was well up on the cards against Wilder. So, they're probably his two most credible wins. And as you mentioned as well, going into the Lions Den here, Okolie, yes, going to Bournemouth is one thing, but going into Poland as the away fighter, he's gonna get a serious amount of abuse and be definitely up against it. Following up from that, Kasper, I just want to ask, where do you think Lawrence Okolie goes if he was to lose here?
I have no idea, really. Maybe to like a Shaolin temple or something like that. He would need probably yet another new coach to try something new with his boxing. But losing two fights in a row on championship level, because regardless of what we think about the Bridgerweight division, that's it's still a WBC title in it. So that would be really tough. And he is older than I thought. I thought he was like 29, but he's past 30 now. So he has no time to lose. As you mentioned, he lost quite some time since his last fight, and that's the same with Rozanski. He was waiting for an opportunity that never happened. There was talks about him fighting Kevin Lerena in South Africa. That never materialized. Lerena went to heavyweight division to fight Huni, and that was that. And we don't know what will happen with the WBC mandatory challenger in the nearest future. So that's a great opportunity for Lukasz Rozanski to fight Okoli right now.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I think I'm not too sure where Lawrence Okoli goes after this. Not only would it be, back-to-back defeats, as you mentioned, it would be with two different coaches in two different divisions. Yes, obviously Rozanski's undefeated, massive puncher, but I think it's quite fair to say, in the UK particularly, and probably in America as well, not a household name. Could be in
Yeah.
Poland, and you'll know better than me, of course. But he to the kind of the casual fan or the normal UK viewer, which would probably be our main audience, and he's not a massive name. He is really known for those Spilka and Babic victories. So fair play to him. But yeah, as you mentioned, Rozanski is the reigning champion here, having won that Bridgerweight world title last time out in knocking out Alan Babic. He's undefeated. He's 15-0 with 14 knockouts. Just how live of an opponent is Rozanski to Okoli? He is quite a considerable underdog with the bookmakers, but how live and and game do you think Rozanski is here?
Well, the thing is that we don't really know. I mean, basically, I can repeat most things that I said before he was fighting Alen Babic, because that was a quick fight, and we we learned nothing from this fight. One thing is that Rozanski's career has been plagued with breaks, and there were many breaks in his career, waiting for fights that never happened. I mentioned Lerena, but there was a fight with Oscar Rivas. He even went to Colombia. There was a face-to-face on the football stadium, but that fight never happened. And there was, that's the case with his career. Like I mentioned, we are waiting for that mandatory challenger, and that never happened. So a year passed, and he's now 38, and yet he was never past fourth round. So we don't know about his gas tank. We don't know many things about his defense. We know that he packs a punch, and I mean he's a heavy hitter. And you can ask Babic. I think Babic still doesn't know what hit him. Well, now he went into this crazy conspiracy mode that everything was against him in Poland. But he was really smiling here. He was really enjoying the moment right until he met Rozanski in the ring. So I think that his power, that's the main thing that could trouble Okoli, because I believe that fight with Bilam Smith, that was really looking good for Okoli up until that moment that he was caught with the punch, and he was never the same in that fight. And I mean, with Rozanski, it may look the same. I hope it's the same, and I really believe that Lukasz will jump on Lawrence from the very first bell, and he will try to rough him up, and he will try to knock him out.
Very, very interesting indeed. Great insight, Casper. So thank you. And just finally, before we round off, I always like to finish these videos with a quick prediction. So I am going to ask you for your prediction, Casper. How does this fight play out? Who wins and how?
Oh, that's a tough one. I mean, I think it's likely that Lawrence wins on points or even by stoppage late in this fight if the fight goes past 4 or 5 rounds. But for my official prediction, well, let's have it. I think that Lukasz will jump on him and will knock him out in the first round. It may be maybe stop standing or something like that, but I hope that he gets that stoppage.
Brilliant. Well, I really appreciate you jumping on, Casper. I think I'm going to go with Okoli. I do think that he might have a few hairy moments early on, but I just think he could have enough to get through those hairy moments. And yeah, again, I think if he does get through those first few rounds, I think Okoli could stop Rozanski. But it remains to be seen. It's a compelling fight. It's one I'm looking forward to. So, Casper, I really appreciate you jumping on and discussing this fight with me. Guys watching, let us know your thoughts on this fight. How far could Okoli go as well? Could he win a world title at heavyweight? Is it win or bust for Okoli here? Where does he go if he loses? And obviously Rozanski as well, win this and does he get an opportunity at even a heavyweight for a world title, whatever? Let us know your thoughts. Casper, Appreciate you jumping on as always, mate. Thanks very much for your time, and I'll speak to you again soon.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, hopefully that would mean that there's something happening with Polish boxer, and I'd love to see that.
Absolutely. Cheers, mate.